Anna. Welcome back to my channel, Mostly Paper Crafts. In today's video, I'm going to share the December My Monthly Hero Kit from Hero Arts and all the things I made with it. We'll take a look at the contents of this month's kit. So everything came packaged in this nice zipper pouch. I've been using these pouches to store projects. I'm not actually keeping my kits in them, but I have been using them to store things that I'm working on, half-created cards and such. We got 3 ink cubes. These are all reactive inks: Berry Smoothie, Fruit Punch, and Lemon Drop. 10 tiny little clothespins, and these are not too thick, although I think if I mailed a card with these on there, I would add some padding. I would also pay the extra postage to make it non-machinable. Our cardboard insert that details the contents of the kit. A 6x6 city cling stamp. This is a nice rubber cling, so we should get a nice impression on this. You can select just part of that city background to use on your project. You can even stamp and fussy cut out individual buildings if you like. There's a 4x6 stamp set as well. This is mostly sentiments, but there are a few little icons. We have a couple kitties, a couple puppies, some flowers, a heart, a bird, a key, and I really like this little mug that says hello. I'm definitely going to be using that one. And then lots of different sentiments here. There's a good variety of different sentiments to use on a variety of different cards. There are 4 sheets of a nice dark, thick black cardstock and our dies. So there are coordinating dies for each of the icons in this stamp set, and then there's a fancy die that is sort of a city neighborhood scene where there are a couple of porches, a couple of people lounging on them, and then some laundry hanging across. So I'll show you what that looks like after I cut off all of these extra little pieces. Here's what that die looks like with all the extra pieces cut out, and I cut the little scene out of some white cardstock, and the first thing I noticed is that this scene is not framed, so I had put in an A2 size panel, 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches, and you can see it left a border around the outside. I didn't realize it when I was lining it up that it was not going to create its own frame, so if I did this in the future, I would take the time to line it up a little bit more evenly. It's not too terrible. But there's so many details we can see in this die. There's even little birdies on this line. There's a little dog. We've got some plants. These could be a string of lights if they weren't laundry with clothespins, so it would be up to you. And there are a lot of little pieces to knock out there. I had missed one. But lots of individual cute little pieces that could be used on their own, or this whole scene can be used together. My first few cards are going to showcase that fancy die. This one was just cut out of white cardstock. I put a piece of patterned paper in the background there. This is from Hero Arts. It's a paper that I got in one of the paper grab bags recently. I stamped my sentiment on some vellum and did heat emboss that for some nice shine there, and then I adhered my vellum behind the card panel to hide the adhesive. So nice and clean and simple, but this die is so fancy you really don't need to add much to it to make it really cool. Okay, so we're going to step things up a notch with a dimensional card. This card will fold flat into an envelope. It's normal A2 size, but when it comes out of the envelope, it will pop up and stand up like a little shadow box. Now, I want to talk a little bit about how I did that, but also I want to show you in the background here, I did use that big rubber cling background stamp stamped onto craft and I used gold embossing powder. Oh my gosh, I love the look of gold embossing on craft, but there's just so much detail in the stamp. I was just in awe of how beautiful that turned out. Now you might also notice some more detail inside the folds here because I used a couple of dies from an older set, so I'll pull those out in a second to show you. My sentiment is stamped on craft and heat embossed, and then here's what the back of that card looks like. I want to talk about my process briefly for this card in case you are inspired to make something like this. So I started with a piece of cardstock, actually a black piece that was included in the sampler that is a 5.5 by 8.25. And because this die does not have a frame, it actually just cuts out the holes, leaving the rest of the piece intact. And you can see that there would be cardstock left at the top and then the bottom, and then the side panels would be intact as well. So I cut it out from the center, and I did use a centering ruler just to make sure that I had it in the right place. And then I used my scoring tool to create 3 score lines on each side that were evenly spaced. I believe I did a half an inch, and then whatever was left over was going to be my tab to adhere it on the back. And then I just scored it. So that created this accordion type fold. And then I just cut an A2 sized panel out of my stamped background. So that was on craft with the gold embossing. It's just A2 size, and then I just adhered the tabs that were on the side, and it came together very, very easily and quickly. Now I could have left it just like that, but I did use a Lawn Fawn stitched frame die so that I could cut a frame to go around the outside just to make this a little bit thicker, to make it a little bit more secure. I didn't think it had to have it, but I liked it better with that extra support there. Now you might see that extra detail inside too. These dies are from the April 2019 kit. So it looks like this, and those dies create this city scene, and they actually had come with another die that looks like this clothesline here. So I feel like this month's kit is kind of a throwback to that idea. So I used these pieces and then I just glued them onto those accordion folds to give it a little more detail in the background, and I was very pleased with how this came out. My next card also features that fancy die, but it's quite a bit smaller. So what I did here is I cut my fancy die out on black paper, and then I just wanted a part of this scene. So I used another one of those Lawn Fawn stitched rectangle dies to finish that off to give it a nice border. And I was originally thinking that this would be a shaker, but I couldn't decide what to put in it. And then I decided, you know, it doesn't really need to be a shaker. It has some nice dimension here. I put a piece of acetate that came from last month's Hero Arts kit in the background. And then this beautiful city scene was another die from that April 2019 kit. And looks like this, and that gave me the perfect backdrop for this little sunset scene. Now as for the orange glowing sky there, that's actually just a piece of packaging from something. I can't remember what it was, but it was like a big sheet of colored cardstock basically, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to save this for a project, and it was perfect here. Now after I had my little scene cut out, I kept trying to figure out what color I wanted to mat it on, and I really just couldn't decide on anything. So I just left it. So it's a mini card. I stamped my sentiment on the inside, and that's it. Nice and simple. Now I have another idea for a project like this. I think this would make a beautiful magnet. So instead of putting this panel onto a card, I'd considered putting an adhesive magnet sheet on the back, and then this could go right onto the fridge. My next few cards are going to feature that city background stamp. Now there was so much detail in it and it would be so fun to color, but I just don't have the time or energy to be coloring right now, especially something so detailed. But the good news is it looks beautiful when it's embossed. So I showed you this card with the gold on craft, and this one is silver on black, and I just really love this as well. And I did the whole 6x6, so when I created this mini slimline, I still have a nice piece that's left over that I can use on another project. As for the center here, I did use a stamp from the kit. Welcome to the neighborhood. I put a little bit of glossy accents there. This sentiment is heat embossed. And then I used some dies from Lawn Fawn to create that stitched rectangle, stitched circle. I know my shapes. I am a geometry teacher. Some paper from my stash. This is actually a velvet paper and then a nice shiny silver. I liked that with the heat embossing. And then I did layer this circle here in the center up a few times just to give it a little bit of dimension. Nice and simple, but stunning because of all of that shine. For my next card, I used that background stamp again. This time I used Crunchy Leaf. It's a Lawn Fawn no line coloring ink to give us a subtle background here. Happy New Home is heat embossed, and then the gold trim here is from a previous My Monthly Hero kit. It was the one with the bees. I think that was maybe January of this year, but I still have a little bit of it left over. I thought it looked really nice with the craft and with this Crunchy Leaf ink. Very simple design. Could have done more with this, but I just really didn't feel like it needed it. Now, when I stamped this scene, it's 6x6, it's huge, so I still had lots of that paper left over, so I created another mini slimline using a different portion of that stamp. I stamped Welcome to the Neighborhood again. This time it's actually gold embossed, and then I used that Lawn Fawn die to create my scalloped circle. I know, it's not a rectangle, it's a circle. But I created this frame here, and then I actually filled it in with glossy accents. It's a lot of glossy accents. I wasn't exactly sure how that would turn out, but I was pretty pleased with it. So it just added a little extra something to this otherwise very simple card. I think sometimes we overcomplicate things. There's so much detail in this stamp. I mean, I really didn't need to add anything else to this for it to be visually interesting. All right, let's get these out of the way. The next card says just a little note to say you're amazing. 2 stamps from the kit. I'm using waffle flower dies here. It's the scalloped oval set. I just purchased that a couple of weeks ago and I was excited to get to use it. I have some foam tape to pop this up. Now this is a very simple design. We've got white, black, white, black. I mean, it's not even heat embossed. Very simple. And it was actually this sentiment that inspired my next group of cards. So I'm going to bring these all out at the same time. Just a little note. I was thinking, you know, I love little notes. So for these next couple of cards, they're just tiny and there's not a lot going on. I just used some dies from my stash. This one is from Lawn Fawn. These ones are from Sizzix. I used some of the small icon stamps, and I don't know, there's just something fun about a little note. And these are notes that I might put on a coworker's desk. Like, not even bother putting it on an envelope, just set it on their desk, and then when they come in the morning, they'll get a cute little surprise. So I don't know if there's even anything to point out here. I did put a piece of white inside this card so that it can be written on. And this one has a couple of layers here, but just the small icons. I thought that they worked well on small cards because the icons were so small themselves. And the kit did come with the coordinating dies, but I thought that they looked great just stamped directly on the paper. And I actually didn't end up using any of the coordinating dies except for one, the heart, which I used on this tiny card. I used the Berry Splash ink that came in the kit this month for welcome. This is the die cut heart, which I didn't stamp, just used the die. I put some glossy accents on there, matted it on some pink cardstock, and it's just another cute little card. I apologize, that ink was actually berry smoothie. I don't know what I said, but the other ink that I used was the Fruit Punch, and here is another heart. Now, this is the heart stamp, and then this is the heart die, so just a little bit different. This is stamped right on there. I'm so lucky to have you in my life. We've got our little cat and dog matted on some black on a white card base. Again, very simple, but I think that these icons really work well for these small projects. For my last card, I liked this clothesline with the let's hang out sentiment, and I had to use a couple of the clothespins, so this all came together pretty simply, but I mean, it makes total sense. Let's hang out. I'm sure that that is the sentiment they imagined us using with the clothespins and the clothesline there. I did some ink blending in the background. I wasn't super thrilled with it, but it was too late because I'd already adhered my stuff by the time I realized I don't really like that, and I didn't want to start over. You know, this is the only coloring that I did in the entire set of projects for this month, and it's just a little bit of alcohol markers there, but I think the simple theme for the month is working for me, and it may be continuing for the next couple of months as I'm finishing up my master's program. Life is just a little busy right now, but I'm so thankful to have some time to spend crafting and sharing all of my projects with you. So I hope that these did inspire you to use your kit if you purchase this as well. There's a lot of possibilities, especially if you love coloring or fussy cutting, because these buildings could be cut out and colored, and there's just so many things to do with them. I had really considered doing a wreath builder with some of these small icons, but I didn't have the mental energy to make that happen either. My favorite card for this month was definitely this pop-up shadow box. I'd love to hear which one was your favorite in the comments below. I hope that you enjoyed my simple projects this month and that they were a good reminder for you that your cards don't have to be overly elaborate or ornate to be wonderful. The recipient is going to love them just the same. Thanks for spending some time with me. I hope that you and your family have a healthy and very happy holiday season. And until next time, go make something beautiful.